From each happily ever after, every wish upon a star. Let's break down the movies that shaped who we are. From memory lane to now and everything in between. The most famous of films to the ones we've never seen. Decade by decade, all the times we laughed and cried. And with a little pixie dust, they will all take flight. Reliving the feelings, and we're trying our very best. And if they mean the same to you, please be our guest. So hop aboard, we would love to have you as we hang with a certain mouth, the whole gang too. If you love nostalgia stuff, we hope this does the trick. Thanks for joining us as we deep dive the magic.
Hi, and welcome back to the Deep Diving the Magic podcast. I'm KJ.
And I'm Jeffrey. And today we are back with another installment into the True Life Adventure series. From September 14th of 1955, movie 28 of the Disney feature-length films, and that is The African Lion. So today we will be diving into, you guessed it, it's about Africa and the lions. This is the first film to be released after the opening of Disneyland in the summer of 1955. But before we dive into what I have, do you have a quick synopsis for us?
Experience the thrill of the hunt and the heartwarming fun of a mother lion caring for her playful cubs as wildlife experts Amala and Alfred Millot, I might have butchered their name, sorry, spend 3 years on the plains of Africa studying the king of beasts.
I don't know how heartwarming this film actually is, but
I thought it was pretty hard.
yeah, I mean, so as you mentioned, it was filmed over 30 months in Kenya, Tanganyika, Uganda, and South Africa. Do you have any facts or any trivia or maybe even some thoughts before we actually go ahead and give it a kickoff?
Like you said, it's actually the 10th installment of the True Life Adventure series of the nature documentaries produced by Walt Disney.
Yeah, not all of them are feature length, like we said.
I do have one other trivia note. It's kind of a dark note, but I'll wait till we get to the section and I'll tell you about it.
All right. So, are we ready to go ahead and get the ball rolling?
Let's dive in.
All right. So it does start off with the spinning of the globe during the opening credits. And then it does say on the screen, it says this True Life Adventure was 3 years in the making. It is an authentic camera record of actual happenings. The story is nature's own. The actions of her creatures entirely spontaneous. And it starts with the paintbrush painting the Africa on the map. Would you like to start us off with what we see first?
So yeah, like you said, they're painting the map of Africa, and while they're doing this, they're discussing how at one point there was hardly anything known about Africa. So like on maps in the past, it used to just be like a black spot on the map because not really much was known about it. But then it kind of goes into Mount Kilimanjaro, which is actually what the safari is named after.
Yeah, can I add something about that real quick?
Yeah, that one does.
So I wrote the same thing, Mount Kilimanjaro, which is the home of the fantastic safari at the Animal Kingdom and Disney World. It's the reason to go there. Which is funny to me because I watch a lot of Disney World's YouTube. I read a lot and we go there a lot and we love it. But how many times have you heard the debate and the fight like, we gotta keep IP out of Animal Kingdom? IP doesn't intellectual property, so we gotta keep the movies out of Animal Kingdom.
Okay.
This whole thing was based off of this IP.
No. So Mount Kilimanjaro is an actual mountain.
I know
I
it
don't
is.
think that technically gets considered to be IP.
But it's like,
No,
boom,
drop
right
it,
there.
Jeff. Drop it. Okay.
I mean, I'm on the same boat as you, but
All right. So let's get back to our thing and not off topic with IP. So the lion is the largest member of the cat family. And basically we start seeing all these different animals and we get like a lesson on all the different types of antelope there are. I did not know there were that many different types of antelope, but not the one that was at the prairie because that's only in America. Would
So
you like to talk about some of the other animals that
no,
we saw?
like you said, it starts off with the lions,
Mhm.
and then it goes to the antelope, and then after that we see the zebras.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have any notes about any of the animals, feel free to jump in. But we see the zebras,
Okay.
we see the water buck,
Mm-hmm.
we see the impala, and they jump very majestically. Remember, they were like just picking up their body and they were just moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
We see the wild dogs of Africa,
Mm-hmm.
the African buffalo,
Mm-hmm.
who have made a little bit of an appearance in multiples of these so far. The buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
We see the warthog with its very erect tail. His tail was like he was like a sprinter dog or a
Mm-hmm.
pointer dog. I mean, we see the African vultures.
Mm-hmm.
We see the jackals,
Mm-hmm.
scavengers, the jackals. We see the giraffes. I think you have some stuff on the giraffes, right?
Yep.
So the giraffes are what we see next.
I have some stuffs on all of them, so you
Okay.
can just kind of go through
Okay.
what you saw.
We see the rhinoceroses next, and that's really it for that first little section. So do you have anything to add on that?
So, it talked about like the different animals that the lions hunt, and then it discussed how like the lion lives amongst these animals, and the animals kind of know when they're being hunted and when they're not, so they kind of know when the lions are just passing through, and then so they'll kind of be on alert when they know obviously the lions are hunting. Anyway, so the African buffalo is rarely bothered. I forgot specifically why it said like the lions don't really mess with them as much. Um, oh. Um, anyway, uh, like you said, the warthog runs off with his tail straight up. I don't think it really probably bothers them either, like hunting wise. Um, it did mention that the vulture is always around at the site of a disaster. So basically, if there's like some kind of dead animal, you're gonna see like vultures. Like that's gonna be your sign that there's something there. And then it talked about how the giraffe is the tallest animal in the world, and that it's also mostly mute, which is something new that I learned. I did not know that they don't really make sounds. Um, I think if you take the safari, I think a giraffe sleeps less than 30 minutes a day. It might actually be like around
Yeah, a
6
couple
minutes
minutes.
for the entire day,
Do
which
you
is
know that if you're on
weird.
if
And they
you're,
stand up while they sleep.
if you're on a safari and an animal gets in your way, they call it a giraffic jam?
Well, there you go. Yeah, it talked about how the rhinos are super unpredictable, like you'd never know what they're gonna do. And African rhinos have two horns, which I was wondering, I meant to look it up, but I didn't. Like, don't all rhinos have two horns? Or do they only have two? It specifically said in this documentary that I thought it said they were ivory, two horns of ivory, which we now know is not the case. Um, it's actually just made of like keratin, which is the same things that our fingernails and hair are made of.
Yep.
Anyway, let me see here. So you see the rhinos. I don't have it like specifically in my notes in here, but so going back to my little thing while we're at the rhinos, it talked about like the watering holes and like the different seasons. So there's a wet season and a dry season, obviously, in the land where the lions are. Come on, babe. 1, 2, 3, do something. There we go. Oh, is that your toy? Yeah. Okay. Anyway. She cannot figure this out. So anyway, it talked about how like there's a wet and a dry season, and a lot of the water sources during the dry season, they kind of like obviously dry up, and it causes there to be like muddy areas where like you kind of risk drinking water to survive or getting stuck.
Yeah.
And it showed a rhino actually being stuck in the mud around one of the watering holes in the dry season. And another rhino just kind of looks like, hey, buddy, what's wrong? And drinks the water and then walks off. Because, I mean, it doesn't really try to help.
They call it a fossil in the making.
Yeah. And that's basically like how like the fossils that we have now were made back in the day.
Mhm.
So, dark note here, for trivia facts. The scene where the rhino was stuck in the mud was actually, the filming team rescued the animal, but it charged at them after being freed, and I don't know if they shot it or not. I think they might have shot it. Um. Anyway, so he was freed. They just didn't leave him there, but he may have been shot. I'm not sure. I may have read that wrong when I was reading it, but anyway, so he didn't become a fossil, so no need to
Yeah.
panic. Let's see, rhinos. Then it kind of goes back to the lions, and then you have lions just kind of like rolled over on their backs, napping in the sun. What a day. And then it kind
The-
of made me laugh because it looks like Winston when he lays in the sun when I leave the back door open.
It does say that the African lion is nothing but an oversized cat and perhaps the laziest animal alive.
Yeah. Um, so I they talked about how like lions are very like family minded, and a family of lions is called a pride.
But hey, it's showing who's dominant over this lion right here.
She's like, that's my toy, Dad.
Um,
Stop touching it.
so, yeah, and like it shows like the cubs being playful, like you said, and
And they play just like kittens do.
well, hey, just played like that, like that. Rest in peace, that lion.
Wild dog here.
So it also says that a male lion is just another good for nothing male animal because the female lioness runs the pride.
Yeah. And the real king is the lioness because she does all the work. African elephants.
Actually, can I say something else about the lions on that before you jump into the elephant?
Yep.
In that scene, a lioness from a different pride, I guess, shows up in
In the wrong territory.
in the wrong territory, and they had this big fight. So it puts a whole new meaning to the term cat fight.
Yeah, and then they said, oh, and the male only joins in because he realizes he's expected to, but he doesn't really do anything. Like I'm pretty sure that the other female lion is like able to get away because of where the male lion is, because he doesn't really do anything. He's just like, oh.
And then after that, I know you're gonna talk. You about the elephants, but I can go ahead and list the next couple of animals we saw before you even talk about them. So we do see the African elephant.
Mhm.
What they do say that it has no predator, which is of course before humans became jerks. We see the hippopotamus. I learned that it was related to the pig, but I'll let you say on that one. The lily trotter, which is that bird that hops on the animals in the water.
Mhm.
A fish that was fishing inside of a hippo's mouth, which I thought was pretty funny. The crocodile, the African baboon, the leopard, the ostrich, some storks and some cranes, the greater busker, and there was also a bird that like was moving, but its head wasn't moving, and it was really creepy. But go ahead and touch on those animals there. So
Yeah, so African elephants are the largest mammals on land. I was actually surprised by like when you hear the title of it, it's the African lion. So I thought we were gonna learn a ton about lions, and we
Oh.
actually learned a lot of information about other animals than I thought we would, but it was still really good. I enjoyed it. The film also referenced the elephant's tusk as being ivory, so they might have not done that with the rhino's horns, but specifically their horns and the tusk of the elephants are both keratin, they're not ivory. Which actually led to both of those animals being poached because people thought they were gonna get real ivory, but basically not. Then like you said, we had some hippos, and interesting little fact, because I've always liked hippos. They are related to the pig. I
Yep.
did not know that, and they are second only to the elephant in size.
Hmm.
And they have the biggest mouth aside from whales. And it was interesting because like they can go underwater for a really long time, but they can run underwater.
Mhm.
So, and they are actually the most dangerous land animal. Like
I mean that.
more people are killed by hippos a year than they
Yeah.
are sharks.
I mean, a fish was fishing inside of the hippo's mouth.
Yeah, why that fish will do that is beyond me. But anyway, then it went to a scene like, and it was talking about baboons and like how they kind of work as a family unit and that they're very smart, but they're also practical jokers. And I thought it was funny. I don't remember the specific animal it was, but one baboon pushed the other baboon in the butt, and then the other baboon pushed the other animal in the butt, and the other animal took off running. So it was very comical. Anyway, baboons. Yeah. Um, leopards. I talked about leopards
Mhm.
and how they actually hunt as they ambush from the trees. So they sneak up on things and get into trees and hope that their prey is gonna come by, and then they like jump down on them from the trees. And then after they do that, they actually haul their kill up into the trees so they don't have to share. Um, which I don't know why the lions don't do that because
Well,
they
yeah,
can climb the
We'll
trees,
we'll get there
but they
about
probably
the
should.
animals sharing and the lions sharing in a second.
And then I have in my note, are you ready for this? Birds, birds, birds. There were tons of birds,
This
and
bird,
I hate birds.
this bird was moving, but his head was just staying the same. Like it was like
Yeah, so it was like this bird's head would move forward, and then like its body would go doot, 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 to get back to it, but its head wasn't moving, and
Yeah.
Jeff was like so creeped out. It was the only bird I actually didn't think was scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We also then come across the wildebeest and the cheetah. But then it shows the lion. It talks, speaking of the wildebeest, it shows the lioness killing the wildebeest, which is then eaten by the entire pride. It is very gruesome. They go into detail about it. If you want to talk about the whole family sharing the food thing.
Yeah, so basically before it gets into the killing part, it talks about the wet and the dry seasons that I kind of already touched on. But an important note is the wet season is when all the new young are born.
Correct.
So
Like
you
in the
have
Lion
all
King.
these like new baby animals and you got to feed them. So that's when the wildebeest gets killed, and then basically the whole pride has to eat off of that.
Including the lazy dam.
Yeah, that didn't do anything. And he actually tries to take a lot of it, and if I this is I guess why I wasn't aligned, because I probably would have already killed him. Um I mean, you're not pulling your share, buddy. You don't deserve to have any of this. So it shows a mom trying to like drag off like part of what was left of the kill because she has cubs to feed and she's trying to feed the cubs. Um and then it shows, I don't, was it jackals?
I mean,
It
just some
wasn't
kind of
coyotes.
scavengers, yeah.
Yeah. Something that looked like a jackal or a coyote. And then you had hyenas that came in. Which are like the scavengers, and it didn't really touch on it, but in other documentaries that I've seen, like that's like the one animal like a lion won't go up against is like a pack of hyenas.
I mean, I've seen the Lion King.
I said documentary, Jeff.
I mean, it happens in the Lion King too.
I'm surrounded by idiots.
There you go.
Anyway, so basically this lioness is trying to get like what she has left of her kill to her cubs, and then you see all these other animals like vultures and all this other stuff that's basically waiting. And it was kind of describing how like this is how nature meant for it to be, like nothing goes to waste. Like something is going to eat every part of this, so it's going to go to good use. It's not like it's just mercy killing out there. So nature has its course. So I guess it is gruesome, but it's not going to waste.
But then after the wildebeest, we do see that the same fate happens to the zebra and then the giraffe as well.
yeah. Yeah. And I don't think the giraffes are actually usually killed either, unless it's like a baby giraffe. They did say like every once in a while a baby giraffe will get killed, but like, I mean, I would imagine it's probably hard to kill a giraffe because you probably have to jump pretty high
Yeah.
to knock it down, and then you've got to cut its airway off.
It's a lot of airway.
Yeah. Where would one cut off?
So
Anyway.
then after that, after the wet season, it does go into the dry season.
Mhm.
Like all of these,
Hang on, we
go
didn't
ahead.
get finished. We talked about the cheetahs.
Mhm.
I was obsessed with cheetahs growing up. I don't know if it was like a Lisa Frank thing. I just loved cheetahs. It was like the fastest animal on earth. I thought this was so cool. Anyway, so it did talk about the cheetah and how it can run up to 80 miles per hour. But I had a question. Could you imagine having to eat something after you just sprinted 80 miles an hour? You're panting, but you're gonna eat?
I mean, you worked up an appetite. I mean, when someone's running the Boston Marathon, they like stop and grab like a fig Newton on the way.
Yeah, but they're not hauling butt at like 80 miles an hour.
I mean, if so, they would finish the race in 15 minutes.
Anyway, I just thought that was like kind of a crazy thought if you think about it, because like this animal is like running 80 miles an hour and then all of a sudden it's gonna like stop and eat.
Mhm.
And on a side note, Big Cat's Diary, Winston loved that show, and I was kind of sad because Winston didn't even bother to watch this with us. Like when he was a kitten, like he'd hear those things on TV, and like especially cheetahs, like because they do like a weird like chirp to their young. He like would run up and sit on the edge of the bed and watch these things, and I was like, look at my cat. Anyway, okay,
So
now you can go to the dry season.
back to that, yeah. So then there's a dry season, and then just like previous adventure films that we've watched, adventure life films that we've watched, there's a drought. Even the catfish have no water. We
Mhm.
talked about the rhino not becoming a fossil. But the part of the dry season is it then becomes there's whirlwinds, there's the dust devil whirlwinds that aren't
Mhm.
very safe, and then there's the mass migration to try to find water. But part of this is there's locusts, there's a whole
Dust devils.
Yep.
I had never heard of dust devils. It,
The name of the vacuum?
no, it's a dirt devil.
Oh,
But
okay.
I thought of that when we were watching it, and I was like, I wonder, is this how they got their name?
So they go on this mass migration, try to find water. There's a whole swarm of locusts.
Like
Which
crazy. Like they actually like cloud the sky up. Like the way it was describing it, they can cloud the sky up to where it looks like an overcast day.
yeah. Storks come back, but then the tropical rains come. But unlike stressful, sad parts of Disney films, this rain is a good thing because it's bringing on new life. And then the film does end with once again the lion is surveying the Great Plains,
Yep.
just like it started. And that's the end.
Basically, the cycle's just going to repeat itself. So
Part two. I actually thoroughly enjoyed this documentary. This is probably the one I enjoyed the most out of all the true life adventures so
Yeah.
far. But would you like to give any thoughts or a rating or two?
So I have to say I also enjoyed this one more than the other ones.
Clearly, so did Faye because she stole our lion.
And she is giving it all sorts of heck down there. Yeah, so I definitely enjoyed it a lot more than the other ones that we've watched for the documentaries.
There's some more coming. Oh, I have a question for you. Can I ask you a question? Same question I asked you last time. African lion animals, living desert animals, vanishing prairie animals. Who's winning?
African lion animals.
Yeah, I agree.
Only because you have the lions, the leopards,
The African dogs that have
the
100%.
cheetahs, and the African
dogs
the
have 100% kill rate or whatever it is.
Yeah.
All right, sorry, couldn't cut you off. So how about that rating?
Also, I don't think I've ever watched this one.
Mhm.
I do not like. I've seen a lot of documentaries on animals of this kind, but I don't think I've seen this one because this one was not familiar like the other two that we've watched. But the overall IMDb rating on this one was a 7.2.
Okay.
I gave it a 7.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah.
I agree. I enjoyed this. But did you enjoy this enough to make the list upon a
I
star?
did not.
So, since you did not, what's your list?
Well, we're gonna come around to number 1 with Dumbo. Then I have Lady and the Tramp, The Three Caballeros, Peter Pan, Alice in Wonderland, Fantasia, Saludos Amigos, The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, Bambi, and Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
And my current list upon a star top 10 is also not changing, with the almighty Peter Pan at number 1, followed by Alice in Wonderland at 2, Pinocchio at 3, Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad at 4, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs at running out the top 5. Then we have Lady and the Tramp, The Three Caballeros, Cinderella, Dumbo, and Bambi as my number 10. Thank you for watching. Thank you for learning about animals with us. Thank you for dealing with our pups stealing our props that we then stole from our pups. So it's the circle.
It's her problem.
Just like
The
the
circle of life here.
just like the film. Again,
And
thank
the
you.
guy at house.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening to us go on and
Thank you for listening to me nerd out about fun animal documentaries.
yeah, thank you for allowing us to be able to watch these films.
Yeah.
Speaking of
And
films,
hopefully you're watching them along with us.
yeah. Well, next one. Speaking of films, the next one's not the easiest one to find. But it is the film that's going to round out the year of 1955. And wait till you hear what we have to say about it. It is called The Littlest Outlaw. And if you've heard about it before, because I haven't, and there's not many people that know more about this than me. I don't know. I never heard about it before.
I never heard of it.
And
either.
so yeah, it's called The Littlest Outlaw. It's from the end of 1955, and we will be diving into it the next episode. Send us an email. Tell me about how you have seen the film before, or about how you still can't believe that those Rams were running their heads into each other all those weeks ago. But again, thank you for hanging out with us. Leave a like, a comment, tell your friends. Talk about how cute Faye was today, stealing our lion. But go ahead, KJ, would you like to run us out?
Thanks for deep diving the magic.
Thank you.
Bye.